According to Section 174 of the Criminal Procedures Act, if at this point in the trial, that is after the state has wrapped up their case, there seems to be insufficient evidence to really prosecute the accused, his case could be dismissed. And that's what's happening today in the Western Cape High Court as arguments are made for the dismissal or the continuation of Dewani's case. Of course, News 24's Roy McKenzie's been through it all, sitting in the courtroom, and he's joining us in studio to speak a little bit more about this phase of the trial. Roy, thanks for joining us.
Sure, yeah.
Now, we're in this very interesting phase of the trial because, as I said, the state's wrapped up, but the defense hasn't kicked into their part of the case. What's happening?
Not at all, no. It is quite interesting. It's almost like a little mini trial in itself because, yes, when the defense brought this Section 174 application last week, essentially what they were doing is they're saying there is no reason in continuing. So that's why they haven't introduced their witnesses and started their own side of the case. So it remains to be seen whether the judge rules in their favor, in which case it's over, or whether she can see the state's argument that actually there is sufficient evidence to warrant carrying on with the trial, and then they will be forced to bring forward their witnesses and argue their side of the story.
So last week on Wednesday, the defense filed their heads of argument, and on Friday, the state filed theirs. What are these heads of argument?
Essentially, it's just their very detailed explanation as to why the judge must either grant the application or dismiss the application. So the defense's heads of argument was 120 odd pages. So yesterday in court, that's Monday, Francois van Zyl went through that in great detail, and essentially the crux of it was that he argued the three witnesses, the hitmen, who really the state's case revolved around, were of such terrible quality. Their testimonies were so riddled with inaccuracies and lies and contradictions that there was no basis, no reasonable court would convict their client on the basis of that evidence. So that was their argument, essentially saying, chuck it out, there's no point in even continuing. So today what's happening is the state is now arguing its heads of argument, which were filed in response to this. And what they're essentially saying, and it's quite interesting, they've admitted that yes, there were contradictions and there were lies and there were mistakes and there were inaccuracies and inconsistencies in the evidence, but there is still a case to be made.
Now, we've seen through proceedings, as you've reported them back to us, that Judge Traverso isn't exactly partial to the state. And I know she's a judge, she's not supposed to be partial to anybody, but she certainly has come down very hard on the state, just throwing out entire witnesses who she deemed would be irrelevant.
Yeah, look, it's very interesting, and there's been a lot of talk about this, and a lot of people have been comparing her to Judge Masipa in the Oscar Pistorius trial. And I think what she's done is she was very careful not to let this become a 6-month, very long, protracted trial. So she has, just turfed out any evidence that she deems irrelevant and is not, crucial to the facts that are being argued, and she just, has rambled through that, which is quite refreshing in a way, because I think, if she was going to discredit it and disallow it and disregard it later, well, what's the point in hearing days and days of testimony that's not really going to make a difference.
Now, on a lot of today's newspaper front pages, there were pictures of Dewani with the words, "Are Shriyan's bags packed? Is he ready to go home?" Is that what will happen if this case is thrown out? Shriyan Dewani will be free just to go home to the UK?
Essentially, yes. Yeah. No one knows exactly when it will be, so that, it all remains to be seen. I presume the judge will reserve judgment, and she will obviously need to consider both arguments, and then she will make a decision. A lot of talk is that she, regardless of how bad the state's case has been, she will still entertain their application and, hear it. There's been a lot of talk whether Shriyan Dewani himself will take the stand, and there's arguments that if he does, he may potentially incriminate himself, and then actually that won't really stand in their favor well.
Although I doubt Francois van Zyl is so ill-prepared that Shriyan Dewani would incriminate himself, because time and again we have been given the impression from the defense's side that they are seriously on it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think it would really come out in cross-examination. I think, that's what they worry about. Would he be questioned on things that, might potentially upset him or could possibly incriminate him? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens here.
Roy, let's speculate and say that he is sent back home, that this case is dismissed. Then all eyes are going to be on the National Prosecuting Authority, who assured tax-paying South Africans they were going to extradite him at a cost of millions because they had a watertight case.
Very big questions will be asked, and it's essentially, it will come down to a failure on the police's and the state side to actually secure a very tight case, and also good lawyers on the defence's side. And that's what a good defense attorney will do. Will poke holes in every single aspect of the case. So yeah.
That's News 24's Roy McKenzie. He'll be back in court when Judge Jeanette Traverso hands down her ruling. We'll be keeping you updated on this story and many more. Stay tuned to News 24 Live.